Welcome to this video series, Your Research Legacy, Leaving Your Mark on the World, or Knowledge Translation in 5 Easy Steps. My name is Charlotte Gorley, and I'm going to walk you through 5 easy steps to creating a plan to share your research with the world. Think of it as your research legacy, how you will leave your academic mark on the world, and how researchers, students, and the public will be able to access your work. I supervise master's students through the research and thesis writing portion of a university program, but my interest in sharing knowledge gained through research is more of a personal quest. When I was working on my own dissertation, I was on campus at the university I was enrolled in. We were given a tour that included viewing shelves and shelves of published dissertations, and I thought, wow, all that knowledge locked inside those pages, why isn't it out in the world where people can access it and use it for the benefit of organizations and society? That thought stayed with me after I graduated and began working with students in the master's program. I would encourage them to take their work further, but my official relationship with them ended when they completed their thesis. I also do academic editing for students in master's and doctorate programs, and again, I encourage them to share their work more broadly than their published thesis or dissertation. I realized that my pep talks could be structured into a more useful format, so I began creating a slide deck about knowledge translation and dissemination. That slide deck forms the structure of these videos. There are several reasons why I believe it is important to share research beyond the default academic or trade journals. They are important avenues for communication. However, they are often behind website firewalls or simply not read by the public. You can leave a bigger legacy by sharing your research in places where those not in academic circles can access it. This video series looks at knowledge translation or mobilization from a researcher-author point of view and gives you a framework in 5 easy steps to create a plan to launch your research learning out to a broader audience. If you have a research project you can use as we move through the series, that's great. At the end of these videos, you will have a strategy for making your research available to others using knowledge mobilization approaches. Let's get started. I'll start with a quick overview of what the 5 steps are. The first step is about determining what you want to achieve by sharing your research. In the second step, we'll talk about who your audience or audiences might be. The third step is about being creative when deciding what medium and format you'll use to share your research. In step 4, we'll think about timing and when to reach out. Here, we'll also touch on resources you might tap into. In the last step, we will wrap it all up with honing your message down to the most essential points you want to share in order for your research to make a difference. I'm looking forward to walking through these steps with you. So what is it anyway? I like to think of knowledge translation, or KT for short, as the so what now. You've completed your research, so what now? What will you do with it now? Knowledge translation is about getting the right information to the right people in the right format at the right time. We'll talk about an action plan to accomplish that in the videos. I use the term knowledge translation because I think it best describes the process of taking academic findings and making them understood on the front lines. If we want to address real-world problems, we need to get our work out to the people who can initiate action for change. We can think of KT as a bridge or conduit that moves knowledge from researchers to the public, that transforms information into action, that takes us from knowing to doing, and converts data into ideas. And what does this term knowledge translation mean anyway? Here are several words that are largely interchangeable but mean essentially the same thing. We see the words transfer, translation, exchange, mobilization, dissemination, and diffusion. These are all terms that are used to describe the activities involved in getting research findings into the hands, hearts, and minds of those who can give it a life beyond the research project. You might have heard of all these terms referring to the idea of turning knowledge into action. Before it can be turned into action and applied, the knowledge must be communicated, and that is the focus of these videos. I like the term translation because it implies taking it from an academic or scientific language to real speak. So why should we bother? Why is knowledge translation important? What is the purpose? It is important because it can bridge the gap between knowledge creators, researchers, and decision makers. It adds information to the knowledge pool so that others can benefit from it, and it can lead to solutions that enrich lives. It can bring attention to your work that could have positive effects on your career or future research opportunities. Perhaps it will lead to connections with other researchers or funders and spark ideas for exciting work. In short, knowledge translation is important because research matters. When research findings are seen as tools for solutions to issues, they can make a difference. When evidence is shared, it can be used in decision making, and the impact can have a far greater effect through sound decisions and policy making. A knowledge transition plan is a strategy for getting research findings and your main message to those who will benefit from it. Why you? Well, no one else has your perspective on the research. No one else knows the data and what it means as well as you do. No one else can tell a story like you can. In academic writing, we are encouraged to insert our own voices into the papers we write. Your voice is an important component of a knowledge translation plan. It may be tempting to hand off the communication aspect to someone else, so I encourage you to be hands-on at this important juncture. Your research needs you to be the driver. In the next video, step 1, we'll start with determining what your knowledge translation goals are. If you enjoyed this video, use the like button and be sure to subscribe to this channel for future videos on topics like this. Please share your comments in the section below and let me know what was most useful to you. Let's move on to the next video. Step 1. Determine what your knowledge translation goals are.